Tim McGraw is a huge legend in American country music. The guy who made songs like Live Like You Were Dying and Humble and Kind feel like they belong to everybody. His voice didn't just sing, it carried a whole country along with it. He grew up super poor in a little town called Start, Louisiana. His real dad left before he was even born, and his mom had to raise him all by herself. Life was tough, but with crazy hard work and real talent, he climbed out of that mess and became like a guiding light for millions of people going through hard times, hope, and starting over. He didn't just take over stages. He changed what music could do. He turned his hurt into something bright and warm that held a whole generation together. Every song you hear from him feels like the heartbeat of America looking for something to believe in. Every melody shows a guy who came from nothing and became the heart of his time. Next to him is Faith Hill, his true love, the woman who turned their story into one of Nashville's most famous love stories. Songs like It's Your Love and I Need You became like prayers for millions of people. But even someone as talented as him can't escape the hardest parts of life. He finally met his real dad, only to lose him forever to brain cancer. He built a giant career while carrying hurts that money and fame could never fix. And now, at 58, the same guy who used to fill huge stadiums with 50,000 people singing every word is walking into the scariest part of his life yet. 5 big surgeries in a row, one after another, pushing his body to the absolute limit. Can the guy who used to guide millions of hearts keep standing when the storm is inside his own body? Don't look away. The real story behind all those bright stage lights is way more painful and fragile than anybody ever thought. Before we get into it, hit that like button to show some love to. Oh, the man who started with nothing and gave his whole heart to America. It's hard to believe that one of America's biggest voices didn't come from fancy places and cheering crowds, but from total quiet. A quiet so deep it felt like it was part of every breath and every dark southern night. His story starts May 1st, 1967, in the hot little town of Delhi, Louisiana, where cotton fields went on forever. Nights were full of buzzing bugs, and the air felt thick with secrets nobody talked about. His mom, Betty D'Agostino, was only in her early 20s. She worked 2 shifts at a little diner just to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. Her hands shook from being so tired, and her eyes looked sad from carrying too much too young. His dad was a baseball player named Tug McGraw, a rising star with the Jacksonville Suns, but he was already gone before the baby was born. So Tim came into the world with just his mom's last name, growing up with whispers everybody knew, but nobody said out loud. Their house was old and tiny. The walls were thin, the roof leaked, and there was never enough money. Inside, Tim shared a crowded room with his mom and later with his stepdad, Horace Smith, a name he used because it was the only one he had. Everybody thought he was Horace's kid, and for years he believed that story too because he didn't have anything else. He used to say, "I didn't even know who I really was. I just knew my mom was doing her best." Money was always tight. His mom left for work before the sun came up and left him a cold biscuit and a little note that said, "I love you, Timmy." They weren't out on the street, but life was hard. School was a safe place sometimes and a tough place other times. He was smart and quiet, but he had a last name that wasn't really his, and kids whispered things they somehow knew. He tried to stay in the back and not be noticed, smiling, even when he had less than everybody else. But on the playground and ball fields, he started finding little pieces of who he really was. He was fast, he had rhythm, he felt alive. And every time he picked up a baseball, something strong woke up inside him, like an echo of a dad he had never met. After school, when everything got quiet, that feeling turned into loneliness that no game could fix. Most nights he sat barefoot on the porch with an old radio pressed to his ear while bugs buzzed around him. He'd listen to George Strait and Merle Haggard, and their voices felt like company, like a dad he never had. Music was the only thing that really reached him and made him feel less alone. Nothing prepared him for the day everything changed. He was 11, looking through his mom's closet for school stuff, when he found an old folded birth certificate under some clothes. In the spot for father's name, it didn't say Smith. It said Frank Edwin McGraw, Jr., a name he had never heard. His hands started shaking. He walked out holding the paper and asked, "Mom, who is my dad?" His mom froze, tears in her eyes, and said softly, "Someone I loved who wasn't ready to love us back." With fear and a tiny bit of hope, she called Tug McGraw and set up a meeting. Tim held a cheap baseball cap, excited and scared, not sure if he was meeting a dad or just a stranger. Tug showed up acting all cool and charming like ball players do, but when he saw Tim, saw his own eyes looking back, he got nervous. He said, "I can't be sure," and just walked away. Tim stood there holding that cap, watching him leave. Years later, he said that was the day he learned how to live without a dad. For 7 whole years, there were no calls, no birthdays, nothing. Just emptiness where a dad should have been and a last name that never felt right. But sometimes life comes back around when you need it most. The memory of that scared 11-year-old never left Tug. When Tim turned 18, Tug reached out. After years of silence, they slowly started building something. Quiet talks, little steps toward being father and son. Tim said, "He became my hero, but I met him too late." They fixed some things, but the hurt stayed. He carried his mom's kindness, his dad's fire, and a toughness he built way before life gave him anything good. Maybe that's why when you hear Tim McGraw sing today, you can still hear that little boy on a Louisiana porch waiting for the dad he finally found. Ever since he was a teenager in Start, Louisiana, baseball was everything to Tim McGraw. It wasn't just a game, it was his whole world. He'd spend hot afternoons on the high school field, wearing out his glove and swinging as hard as he could until the sun went down. Baseball was the way he talked to the dad he never knew. Every hit was like saying, "See me." Coaches saw how good he was and how hard he fought. By the time he graduated, he was strong and accurate, and he had a big dream: play pro ball and make his real dad proud. He thought baseball could be the bridge to the dad he shared blood with. But life can be mean. At college, Northeast Louisiana University, 18-year-old Tim got a baseball scholarship and threw himself into the game, trying to prove he belonged. Then 1 second, everything ended. His knee twisted, tore bad, and pain shot through him. The dream of pro baseball was gone, just like that. In his tiny dorm room with his knee all bandaged up, he lay there feeling like he had lost everything. The future he counted on disappeared, but in that quiet, he started hearing old country songs his stepdad used to play back home. His shaky hands picked up a dusty guitar, and even though the first notes sounded rough, something inside him said, "Keep going." Baseball was over, but music became his new way to breathe. In 1989, at 22 years old, with just a guitar, a borrowed last name, and big dreams, he drove to Nashville. The city was full of people trying to make an eye. Every place reminded him how poor he was. Every night was a gamble. Cheap motels, tiny gigs, empty stomach, getting told no over and over. He slept in his car sometimes, cold and hungry, scraping coins together for food. It could have broken anybody. But Tim kept pushing because that same hunger carried him all the way from Louisiana. He knew he had to keep singing to survive. His first big chance came from the dad who wasn't there when he needed him. In 1990, Tug McGraw played his son's demo tape for a music guy at a party. The tape got to Curb Records, and on October 22, 1990, 23-year-old Tim signed his first record deal. It should have felt amazing. Instead, it was just the start of more fights. His first album came out in 1993 and went nowhere. Singles didn't chart, radio wouldn't play him. Critics said his voice wasn't special. It looked like his career might die before it started. But the kid who grew up watching his mom struggle, who knew what real hunger felt like, didn't give up. He took every no like a challenge. He knew what it felt like when dreams fall apart, and he wasn't letting it happen again. He just sang louder, deeper, and more real until people had to listen. That same guy who slept hungry in his car at rest stops was about to step into 1994, the year everything finally changed. After so many nights playing to empty bars and sleeping in cheap rooms, Tim released his album Not a Moment Too Soon. Things flipped fast. The first single, Indian Outlaw, caused a big fuss and got banned some places, but it put his name everywhere. Then Don't Take the Girl came out, a sad, beautiful love song that shot to #1 and turned the kid who used to feel invisible into one of Nashville's new stars. In just months, the guy everybody doubted became the voice for anyone who ever felt unseen. The voice that sang to empty rooms was now heard all across America. The new album sold over 6 million copies by the end of 1994, the biggest country album of the year. It won awards and stayed at #1 for weeks, but that was just the start. For the next 10 years, his songs ruled the charts. He won Grammys, ACMs, CMAs, proof of talent, and years of never giving up. His tours got huge. The Soul to Soul 2 tour with Faith made almost $90 million in 1 year and over $140 million total. The kid who used to count coins for gas was now one of the highest paid country stars ever. The boy who sang to nobody was now filling stadiums and touching a whole country's heart. Songs like Something Like That, Please Remember Me, and My Next 30 Years weren't just hits, they became part of people's lives. When 50,000 people sang his words back to him, you could see older couples holding hands with tears in their eyes, like Tim was singing their own stories. The guy who used to sleep hungry in parking lots built a legacy worth over $200 million. He didn't just sing for America, he sang America's heart back to it. But the louder the cheers got, the more he started losing little pieces of himself. Touring 250 days a year turned hotel rooms into home and left no time to rest or think. In a 1995 interview, he said, "When the lights go off and the crowd leaves, it's just you and the quiet." Winning felt great, but he was exhausted and lonely. His mom was far away, and the dad he finally got back was starting to get sick. Alcohol started becoming a way to quiet the noise in his head and make the empty hotel rooms hurt less. He could fill stadiums but still feel empty inside. Some nights, the roar of 50,000 people turned into a silence that hurt worse than anything. The bright lights showed his face to the world, but nothing reached the dark spots inside. Out of all that hidden pain, something huge grew. Live Like You Were Dying. That song wasn't just a hit, it became a way to live. In an interview, he said that song saved him. It reminded him to really live, not just perform. He won CMA Song of the Year and held the award with shaky hands, thinking about the little boy who used to sing into the dark. Through that song, he became more than a star. He became hope for anyone who lost something. And when Faith Hill came into his life and brought the love he always missed, it finished the journey that started in hard times and turned into something beautiful. He had sung about love and faith and loss, and now life was going to test if he really believed those words. By 2011, at age 44, after 20 years of huge success, Tim felt stuck in a bad contract with Curb Records. It felt more like jail than a partnership. Good songs got shelved, releases got delayed, and albums came out that he never okayed. He felt like he wasn't driving his own career anymore. After long tours, alone in hotel rooms, he'd say, "I just want to sing honestly again." It sounded like that lost 18-year-old wondering where he belonged. Then in 2011, the label sued him for turning in an album too early. He said, "I performed for millions, but right then I felt smaller than ever." For almost 2 years, his life was courtrooms instead of stages. In late 2012, walking out of a Nashville courthouse with his coat pulled tight against the cold, he thought, "I climbed from nothing. How am I back here?" But hard times made him tough since he was a kid. When the court ruled for him in May 2012, it felt like freedom. At 45, signing with Big Machine Records felt like getting out of a cage. His first album with them, 2 Lanes of Freedom, didn't sound planned, it sounded like breathing again. He said, "I get to be myself." The world heard it. Songs poured out. Highway Don't Care with Taylor Swift and Keith Urban flew up the charts. It wasn't a comeback, it was a declaration. I'm free. On tour, you could feel the difference. Older couples held hands. Veterans stood tall. Moms lifted kids up to see the man who fought for his voice and won. Under the lights, with 45 years of scars and lessons in every no, he finally got it. Freedom isn't no problems, it's what you win after surviving them. Fame tested him. Love tested him. Marriage was sometimes harder than any spotlight. But through every storm, Tim held on to one thing: protecting his family like it was the air he breathed. Long before the world called them country's golden couple, Tim and Faith's story started quietly on the 1996 Spontaneous Combustion Tour. Faith was 28 and engaged to someone else. They met backstage and felt something instant. Night after night, they were pulled closer. One rainy night in Nashville, lightning flashing, Tim asked, "Will you marry me?" Faith froze, then said, "We'll talk after the show, cowboy." When he came back, she had written, "Yes, I'll be your wife," in red lipstick on the mirror. 2 careers, 2 hearts, everything lined up. On October 6, 1996, under a big old oak tree in Rayville, Louisiana, they had a secret wedding that looked like just a baseball game and concert. No fancy stuff. Faith was barefoot, 3 months pregnant, in a simple white dress. Tim wore jeans and a black jacket. When she touched her belly and said, "This is all we need," time stopped. Their happiness grew with their first baby cries. Gracie was born in 1997, Maggie in 1998, Audrey in 2001. Faith put her career on hold for 3 years to be a full-time mom. Tim always said, "She gave up the world so I could chase mine." At 2 a.m., he'd play guitar while she rocked a crying baby. In those tired nights, they wrote "It's Your Love." It went to #1 and won awards, but the real win was their warm, laughing home. Faith said, "Fame was loud, motherhood was louder." Everything they sang carried love, sacrifice, and family. From the outside, it looked perfect, but inside they were tired from touring, recording, and the pressure. Tim used alcohol sometimes to quiet the stress. Faith carried the Wei-sin, tea of pregnancies and putting family first. Their house full of awards still had fights and exhaustion, but where lots of couples break, they held on. They helped each other in the dark and let hard times make them stronger partners, 2 people who wouldn't let fame or old hurts tear them apart. Their story wasn't just passion and hits. It was quiet bravery in the tough hours when love gets tested for real. By surviving everything together, they became something rare. Proof that love takes courage to keep choosing every day. In 2006-2007, their Soul 2 tour showed the world their bond. One look between them mid-song held every sleepless night and sacrifice. Their voices together were more than music. They were proof of devotion that survived distance and fame. Fans came for a concert and saw real love that made it through everything. But just when life seemed calm and their love looked unbreakable, something hit without warning. In 2015, Faith got a scary diagnosis and needed serious neck surgery for long-time spine problems. It knocked the wind out of Tim. He dropped everything. No more shows. He lived at the hospital by her bed. Through long, scary nights, he held her hand and never left. Nurses said he barely stepped out of the room. He learned how she breathed, watched for every little sign she needed him, and was there every time she opened her eyes. They didn't talk to the press, they just showed love by being there. When she was scared, he kissed her hand and promised she'd never be alone. When she started getting better, he told the world 6 words: "She's the strongest woman I know." But those words showed how strong he was too. In that little hospital room, far from any crowd, Tim showed love that can't be faked, the kind that stays when everything falls apart. For 29 years, they have chosen each other through noise and quiet, good days and bad days. Their marriage works because they protect each other's hearts and choose loyalty when it's hard. Real love isn't magic, it's courage and daily decisions to stay. Maybe Tim guards his family so much because he knows what it's like to grow up without one. His dad was gone before he was born. The hurt wasn't losing a dad he knew. It was missing someone who was never there. No pictures, no birthdays, no guidance, just emptiness. That ache stayed with him his whole life. In 2003, at 36, in the middle of a huge tour, his mom called. Tug had brain cancer, the bad kind. Time was running out fast. Tim rushed to the hospital but froze outside the door, scared to see his dad so weak. When he went in, they just held hands. Words were too small for all the years they missed. Cancer didn't wait. In the last days, Tim came early, held his dad's hand, and said, "I love you, Dad." Tug looked proud, and hours later he was gone. January 5th, 2004. Tim stayed in the room alone with his guitar, too sad to play. Weeks later, he recorded "Live Like You Were Dying," crying the whole time. To the world, it was a song about living big. To Tim, it was goodbye to his dad. Losing Tug changed him. He started choosing family over everything else. Every year he visits the grave with a guitar and a baseball and talks to the wind. Death took his dad too soon, but it taught him how to love and forgive. Time and sickness steal from the strongest people first. After decades of carrying arenas on his back, Tim started feeling something different inside his own body. The stage that used to feel easy now felt heavy. His steps got slower, his breathing harder, his body tighter. He told a friend, "Sometimes the hardest songs to sing are the ones that used to be easy." The crowd saw a legend. He felt every note fighting pain in his bones. He remembered being a little kid watching his mom work 2 jobs and learning to carry pain quietly. He'd hidden injuries for years, broken foot over and over, elbow wrecked, until surgery was the only choice. Then in March 2018 in Dublin, Ireland at 51, he collapsed on stage from dehydration and total exhaustion. 1 second he was singing strong, the next his legs gave out and medics ran to him while the crowd watched in shock. Alone in the hotel that night, he watched old videos of young him running the stage like nothing could stop him. He whispered, "Where did that guy go?" From 2020 to 2024, it got worse. 3 back surgeries, then double knee replacement. He had to learn to walk again. Slow, careful steps, holding rails in the hospital hallway. Waking up from knee surgery, his legs wrapped and stiff, he begged them to move and they wouldn't. Rehab was tears, shaking, and fear. At home in Tennessee, on nights when pain kept him awake, he'd sit by the window watching rain and whisper, "I gave my voice to the world. Now I have to learn to live quieter." Doctors warned if he kept pushing, he might not walk right one day. Faith held his hand tight, trying not to cry. Through everything, faith was his rock. Yoga together, walks, simple food, playing their old songs when he felt low. Now he lives slower, gentle jogs around the lake, writing, reading, just enjoying being alive. He says health isn't just strength, it's peace. When he plays small stages now, the lights show a survivor, not a superstar. At 58, Tim isn't the wild young guy anymore. He's something bigger, proof that you can rebuild even when your body fights you. He says, "If pain is the price of living, I'm glad I paid it." When the show ends, he takes Faith's hand, walks slow, and goes home, a man who refused to stay down. Now at 58, Tim McGraw is more than a legend. He's living proof you can keep going no matter what. He started with nothing but an old guitar, a beat-up car, and dreams bigger than his little life. From that, he built a giant career and a life full of meaning, decades of touring, new, Ember One songs, and a voice that brought comfort to millions. His money is around $200 to $10 million, but the real treasure is all the people his music helped through dark nights. Just outside Nashville, his Franklin Farm is a peaceful old Greek revival house from the 1800s with big columns, green hills, and a quiet lake. There's a big barn where their horse whiskey says good morning. Inside, the wooden floors creak with family laughs and simple happy moments that mean more than any award. They also have a beautiful island house in the Bahamas called L'Île des Anges. White house, open pavilions, ocean breeze everywhere. Mornings, there are barefoot walks on the sand and quiet coffee on the porch. It's their healing place. His favorite things tell his story. A shiny old 1960s car from early wins, an Aston Martin Faith gave him for his 50th, a tough Jeep for the ranch, and a small plane for flying above it all. They're not just stuff, they're memories of roads he made it down. These days he starts with coffee on the porch watching the sunrise, slow walks, taking care of the animals, quiet time by the lake. His body still reminds him of 5 tough surgeries, stiff joints, sore muscles, but the pain makes every smile deeper. Family is everything. Faith makes normal mornings beautiful. Their girls, Gracie, Maggie, Audrey, fill the house with music and love. Piano playing, walks, family dinners, that's the real wealth. They give back too. Books for kids, help after hurricanes, millions raised for flood victims. It's quiet kindness, not show-off stuff. He's still making music. New albums in 2023 and 2024 full of heart, and a Las Vegas show coming up. Every note now knows time is short, so he sings like everyone counts. Tim McGraw's life shows real success isn't money or fame. It's touching lives, loving hard, and having the guts to keep going. He built empires, survived storms, lost people he loved, and came out humble and kind. His story says live on purpose, be grateful, and let love lead the way. We send Tim and his family all our love, wishing you peace, good health, joy, and blessings everywhere you go. Thank you for letting us tell these stories with care. If one of Tim's songs ever got you through a tough night or made you feel less alone, drop a line or a memory below. Let's say thank you together to the man who reminds us that courage, love, and never giving up are what make a life truly amazing.